Welcome and greetings, career-minded superstars. You are listening to the exclusive Career Coach, your podcast for all things career. And I'm Lisa Edwards, the indispensable career coach for superstars just like you. Now let's dig into this week's topic, shall we? Go from dragging yourself to work each day to finding a job you love. The Career Spring program is for high-achieving and ambitious mid-level professionals like you who are looking for a job that uses your zone of genius, recognizes your value, and pays you what you're worth. If you're ready to learn more, schedule a complimentary consult using the link to my calendar in the show notes. Be sure to follow me on Exclusive Career Coaching on Facebook, Lisa Edwards on LinkedIn, and Lisa.Edwards on Instagram. Hi guys, how's it going? Okay, it's June. What happened? I feel like this year has flown by. I don't know if you're having the same experience, but it is summer, so have a fantastic one and get out there and enjoy the outdoors as much as you can. Hey, I wanted to let you know there's a change to my podcast starting with this episode. So at the end, you're going to hear a segment called DIY versus DFY. So do it yourself versus done for you. And it's going to be a segment, again, at the end of each episode that takes the content of that episode and says, okay, if you're going to do it yourself, here's a main tip. If you would like it done for you, here's what that would look like. And I'm going to tie that in, to the podcast whenever possible. And if I can't tie something into the podcast topic, then I'll kind of do a DIY versus DFY that is relevant, I think, to everyone. So stay tuned to the end so you can hear your first DIY versus DFY segment. This week, I wanted to give you a peek inside my coaching practice to pull the curtain back, sort of Wizard of Oz style. I've mentioned over the many episodes I've done about many of the things that I do with clients, but I'm always surprised when people who have listened to the podcast or have worked with me come around and ask me a very basic question about, can I do this for them? Can I help them with this? So I'm going to give you the full tour today. So to begin, give you a little background. My practice began as a resume writing service once I got my initial ACRW resume certification in 2009. And you've heard me talk about resume certifications before. The reason I chose ACRW is that it was the only one and continues to be the only one that has course requirements, assignments due, testing, really high quality of work that you have to go through. I have often said it was more rigorous than my graduate degree. And that's why I went through it as opposed to the other resume certifications, all of which just require submission of representative samples of your work and money. At that time, back in 2009, my business was called LEK Consultants. And actually, I had a business before that called LEK Presentations that was more focused on providing training programs to companies and did some work in higher education and nonprofit organizations as well. Along the way, I became a certified executive and leadership development coach, which is CELDC when you see those letters by my name, a certified job search strategist, which is a CJSS, and a master resume writer, MRW. And there are 23 of us in the world. I get a lot of pushback on that. I had somebody on the social media who said, oh, there's like 23 million of you. And I said, no, you don't know what you're talking about. It's actually fewer than 25 people in the world. And as I got those certifications, my practice began to expand, and that was very intentional by design, to provide a full slate of coaching services. My goal is to be that full service coaching practice. So there are folks out there who specialize in interview coaching, or they're just resume writers. And by no means do I mean to diminish the work that they do. My goal and my intention has always been, I want you to be able to come to me for the whole scope of what you need, and you don't have to parse out parts of what you need to other coaches or other resources. So what are all these services, and how do I kind of package them together and offer them to people? The inner circle of my practice, as I kind of alluded to, is to provide service to clients who are in job transition. So that started with providing the marketing documents, resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile, executive bios, and such. But also the job search skills. So I, am providing everything from interview coaching, job search strategy, to helping them develop a plan, helping them to execute that, salary negotiations, all of the things. And when I am talking with a client, one of the things that I am determining is where they are in their career. And I have 3 brackets, if you will, within my practice. So the early career clients are within about 7 years of graduating from college. And that's not a hard line because I'm looking at other factors as well. But as a general rule of thumb, if you're within 7 years of graduation, for sure you're going to be an early career. And I have intentionally made those packages as affordable as possible for folks who are really just kind of starting out. The next bracket is Career Spring, which is my sweet spot. This is where I spend most of my time. And these are mid-career folks, right? So more than 7 years, not yet in the executive suite. And then the executive level is folks who are at the VP or C level or a similar, level. At each of these levels, I have 3 packages. So what's in the package is the same. The cost is different. And the reason for that is the more you advance in your career, the more complexity there is in your marketing documents, the more time you've spent. So there's just more volume, but there's also higher level of achievements. It's more challenging to pull those things out. There's a bigger body of work with which I am working to write those documents. So those 3 packages that I offer, first of all, there is the document package. So resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile. And this is for folks who either have a job search strategy that makes sense and is working for them, or perhaps I often have clients who aren't planning to conduct a job search. So they are either updating their materials to be ARFO. I've used that term before, always ready for opportunity, just want to have things ready. Or they have been asked to submit those materials for a specific opportunity that has arisen. And other than that, they're not planning to conduct a job search. One of the things that I do in my intake process, my consult process with clients, is find out what they've got going on, what their plans are for these marketing documents, because I don't want to just offer my services as a resume writer and LinkedIn profile writer and a cover letter writer when they need so much more, because it feels inauthentic to me. It feels like I'm not serving them. I know that I'm not serving them to the best of their ability. But there are plenty of folks that come to me who either just need the documents for the reasons I've mentioned, or maybe they are trying to make this a little bit more financially palatable for them. So they're going to do that first and then come back to me later for the job search piece. And while that will cost them more money in the long run, financially, it makes sense to them to break it up. The next package, and again, it's at each of these 3 levels, early career, mid-career, and executive, is the document and coaching package. So each of these packages always has resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile. That doesn't change. The process I go through with the client to get to those documents, to get them written, does not change. What changes is the coaching piece. So the first package I told you about, document package, no coaching. The second package has 3 one-hour coaching sessions. So this is for someone who needs some coaching. So what do I mean by that? For example, if they need some help with interview skills, that's 2 sessions. So 2 of the 3 sessions would already be committed to interview coaching. Let's say they want to just focus on job search skills and strategy, and they feel really good about their interview skills. We can absolutely do that in 3 sessions. I also have some clients who use those sessions. I've got a couple right now, actually, who are using those sessions before we write the documents because they need direction in what they want to do with their career. I've got a client right now who wants to pivot out of the industry that she's been in the field that she's been in for 4 or 5 years. She's young enough that she can kind of start over. So this may actually be a career reinvention. It's yet to be determined. But we spend those sessions before we write the documents to get the focus we need to be able to write the documents for this new career field. And then finally, the VIP package. So the VIP package is for someone who needs kind of all of the things that I offer. So again, marketing documents, resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile. And this package also includes 6 one-hour coaching sessions and 6 30-minute accountability and support calls. Let me break that down. So the 6 1-hour coaching sessions, this is for somebody who says, hey, I need interview skills. I'd like a little maybe conversation about my direction before we get started on the marketing documents. I want help with my job search strategy. I don't know how to network. They need all the things. This package would provide that for them. And in addition, they get 6 30-minute accountability and support calls. So after they've used their 6 1-hour calls, they have 6 more touch points with me. What does that mean? Accountability and support. So accountability means we meet every 2 weeks. They say, this is what I will have accomplished by the next time we meet, knowing that I'm going to ask them and hold them accountable for that. The support piece is, hey, this is what I ran into in my job search. This is what I'm dealing with. My motivation level is dropping. I need help with my mindset. I don't know how to navigate through this situation I've come in contact with relative to a job that I've applied for, that kind of thing. Clients tell me that those accountability and support calls are gold because it does help to keep them motivated and moving forward as they execute on their job search, which quite frankly almost always takes longer than we think, because most people kind of arbitrarily pull an idea out of their head. I'm going to have a new job in 2 months. And that's in most cases very unrealistic, especially if they're starting from scratch. They, don't have any irons in the fire. And so having those touch points as this goes on and kind of feels like it's dragging on for them is so important. So those are the 3 levels and the 3 packages that I offer. Now, do I have, a la carte services? Absolutely. I have some people who come to me and they just need a resume. They need a LinkedIn profile. They need 1 coaching session. They need a couple coaching sessions. I have all of that available a la carte. These packages are based on what clients need most often when they come to me and how I feel I can best serve them. And of course, my packages have evolved over the years. So I'm always looking for, any way in which I can better serve my clients. The next rung, so that's the inner circle, if you will, of exclusive career coaching, is people in job search transition. The next rung is for people who aren't looking to change jobs or employers in the immediate future. So they're not in job search mode. They're instead dealing with something at work in their career that they know they need help with. And I've got some examples here of clients that I've recently worked with. I had a senior manager who was promoted and she's managing a large team and she's dealing with politics in a way that she never had to before. And, her direct report is higher. Her manager is at a higher level. All of that was very unfamiliar to her. And we navigated that through a coaching program. Had another senior most female executive in a male-dominated company and industry. And she was hired because they needed women at the higher ranks. And yet her boss is regularly telling her to be more like a man. Can you imagine? And so she was understandably confused about that and didn't know how to navigate the mixed messages that she was getting. And also just in general in a very male-dominated industry and company. I had a project manager who was managing a $1 billion, that's with a B, infrastructure project in Canada. And he had been told by his boss that his micromanagement was hindering his chances for upward mobility. So what he was seeing in his team, and he had some contractors and people that he didn't have really control over, weren't doing the job. And in his drive and in his mind to get the job done within the timeline was to go in and do it himself. Well, that micromanagement was taking away from him being a true project manager. And so his boss had said, hey, you got to work on this or you're not going to be able to, your future is limited with the company. And then finally, I had a woman in banking who we're working together now. She's seeing younger people pass her by, people that maybe came in the company with her at the same time. And she, as a result, found herself with a very negative attitude that she didn't like, and she was kind of phoning in her work. So she wanted to do a couple things, and we're working on mindset first and foremost, and that's been our primary focus. Going forward, we will be working on, okay, now that we've got these things in place to elevate your level, let's look at what you really want for the next step in your career, because she's conflicted. Am I jealous of these other people because they've got the jobs I want to have? Or do I just think I should be at that level and I'm dissatisfied by that incongruency. So that's yet to be determined. We'll be working on that going forward. For these complex issues, we typically are engaging in a 12-session coaching package, and we typically meet once every other week. And my reason for that is kind of twofold. Most of the people, especially in this program, are working employees, right? They're employed and they're working 40 plus hours a week. So their time is limited, but also I want them to have a time, an opportunity to move on their accountabilities, right? So every time we meet, what are we going to do over the next 2 weeks? What do you want to be held accountable for? So it's a little bit like those accountability and support calls built into these coaching sessions. And that 6 months period really gives them time to move the needle and see results that they, were coming into coaching for. As I mentioned last week, I have just begun a very structured program called Highly Promotable. So this falls into that second rung of career coaching as opposed to job search coaching. And Highly Promotable is for people whose goal it is to land in the C-suite. And this program includes a 360-degree assessment. So they're getting feedback from boss, coworkers, themselves, they're self-assessing. They get 10 one-hour coaching sessions, which starts with a 90-minute coaching mega session and then ends with a 90-minute mega session. So 10 60-minute to 90-minute sessions. And they also get a 45-day and 6-month follow-up coaching session with me. So 14 coaching sessions altogether, plus the assessments. The Highly Promotable program is different from the coaching that I just mentioned in that this is specifically for people who want to get promoted to eventually land in the C-suite. It's not for folks whose next step is the C-suite, but they can see the C-suite, they want the C-suite, and they want to get there as expediently as possible, as efficiently as possible. They have either identified something that's holding them back, an area, like they know, and I for some reason I was using example of presentations or public speaking. Maybe they've gotten feedback from their boss that their presentation skills, their verbal communication skills are lacking. Perhaps they just know that to be true. And so they've got this area that they either want to work on specific, and again, we're going to do the assessment to make sure that that really is a concern, or they just want to increase their chances for rapid promotability. And with the 360, after we get those results back from the 360 assessment, the client and I determine together, what's the area of strength? What are we seeing really strong that we want to leverage as a signature strength? How can we move that strength up to be like a number one for you? That's what people think of when they think of you first. What are the opportunities at work that you can get involved in? The material that you can read, whatever it may be appropriate. They're going to have homework every time so that they can intentionally and strategically leverage that over 6 months. And then the second thing is a developmental area, not a weakness, but an area where people are saying, yeah. And as we look at that, the client and I realize that that's an area where moving the needle would really move the needle for them as a promotable candidate. So it's an area that they really need to get better in and want to get better in. It's not a weakness that they're like, you know what? I can do without ever working on that area, because I have areas, I'm sure we all do. And I think weaknesses should be recognized as such and accommodated, right? Not necessarily dealt with ourselves, depending on, of course, what it is and how relevant it is to the work that we do. So as I mentioned, there's homework between each session. They might have reading. They might have a podcast to listen to. They might have to talk to specific people. They might have to implement specific strategies at work, talk to their boss about volunteering for something. It's that kind of thing. All right. So that's exclusive career coaching in a nutshell. 3 levels of clients, 3 packages that I offer at each of those levels, lots of opportunity for a la carte services. And then that second rung that is all about the career coaching, whether it is in a targeted way with the 360-degree assessment like Highly Promotable, or whether it is Let's meet regularly. Let's deal with what I'm dealing with at work so that I can be a better employee here. And, parenthetically also increasing my chances for promotability, although that's not the primary focus of the generalized coaching. All right, so here's the DIY versus DFY segment for you. So welcome. For those of you who want to improve in an area of your job by yourself, here's a resource for you. And it's around goal setting for the area that you want to improve. So here's where most people go wrong with goal setting. They aren't creating SMART goals, and you know that acronym: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-sensitive goals. So here's an example. Let's say you've identified public speaking. We talked about that a moment ago as an area you want to improve in. So here's what a SMART goal might look like for that. I will identify, sign up for, and participate in 3 public speaking opportunities by the end of 2023. So it's time sensitive, it's specific, it's attainable, it's realistic. You're not saying I'm going to do 30 public speaking opportunities. You've got, if we're doing this today, you've got 6 months. It's June. You're going to do this by the end of 2023. Once you've identified that SMART goal, then I want you to chunk it down into bite-sized pieces and calendar those steps in, right? So for you to say 3 public speaking engagements, I want you to sit down and list all the things. What does it take? What do I have to do? So you're going to have time to identify potential speaking opportunities. You're going to have time to prepare your presentations. If you're someone like me where you're offering your services out in the world, I recently spent a fair amount of time revising my speaker one sheet, which is my one page, as the name indicates, that says, here's 3 topics that I speak on. Here's where I've spoken. Here's a little bit of my bio, blah, blah. And you may want time to practice your presentation, time to actually deliver the presentation, right? So you're going to have your schedule set up to actually be at the presentation. And there may be follow-up time. You may want to follow up with audience members or who knows what, depending on your topic and purpose and all of that. You may also want to measure your improvement in public speaking as you make these presentations. So are there going to be participant satisfaction surveys? Could you create a participant satisfaction survey? Might that be the follow-up that you do as you send out a Survey Monkey? Will you have mentors in the audience to give you feedback? Ideally, the same person or persons at each of the 3 presentations to give you honest feedback. Here's what you did well. Here's what you might want to work on for next time, and be able to help you see how you've moved the needle over those 3 presentations. And could you also have the presentations taped for you to review so that maybe a mentor could help you and look at those after the fact? Now, here's the done for you. In our example above, you can't hire someone to do the presentations for you, but you can engage with a coach who specializes in public speaking. And you could expect this coach to help you flesh out your topic or topics, maybe flesh out your talking points, whether that's, how am I going to approach this topic? How am I going to write about this topic ahead of time? Maybe on your delivery, your vocal skills, your mannerisms, your gestures, those kinds of things. How can you make your presentation more engaging? What are the tricks and tips to really keep the audience engaged? And then even how to overcome your fear of public speaking through thought work. So I understand that's one of the biggest fears that people have. So maybe you have a fear of public speaking and you need coaching around that. And now that's not the kind of coaching that I provide. So that was all not self-serving at all. So the bottom line is, here's how I like to think of DIY versus DFY. What is my investment versus what is the potential payoff? For example, if I have to give a presentation this fall that could make or break my career, there is a ton at stake. I'm just like, maybe I'm super nervous. I'm super unprepared. I know I'm scared of public speaking. I think a coach is going to be your best bet. And I would start by Googling public speaking coaches, and, go on some discovery calls with 3 or 4 coaches, 5 or 6, however many you want to do, before you make a decision on who you trust to help you with this. If, on the other hand, I'm already pretty good at public speaking and I just need opportunities to present so that I can demonstrate my area, my strength in this area, I probably don't need a coach. I might need some coaching on organizing myself. Maybe there is another piece of this. Maybe I'm really comfortable at public speaking, but I'm not good at laying out the presentation in an orderly way. Like, I tend to speak off the cuff. And while that's been effective, maybe I want to take that to the next level and be more planful about it. Then I would want to coach, right? So it's, again, what is my investment? So what would I have to spend versus what is the potential payoff for me? And does the ROI of that make sense for me? So I hope this has given you some food for thought. I hope you like the new DIY versus DFY segment, and I'll see you next week. Take care. You've been listening to The Exclusive Career Coach with Lisa Edwards, CEO of Exclusive Career Coaching. It would be great if you would rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Also, I want to be your career coach, so be sure to ask questions about your career management challenges and job search situation. Until next time.